Good evening, and welcome to the April 25th, 2023 meeting of the Abington Board of School Directors. I note the attendance of all board members. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. The Abington Board of School Directors has convened this evening's meeting at the Administration Building, and the public is welcome. In consideration of the health and safety of the school community, this meeting is also being broadcast live on the Abington School District YouTube channel. This meeting is being recorded and will be accessible on the district's website and cable channel no later than Friday, April 28th, 2023, to allow those members of the public who cannot participate to view the proceeding at a later time. Comments from citizens will be conducted in person and by phone. Information regarding participating remotely and public comments will be displayed on the screen at the time of public comment, and the board thanks the public in advance for its cooperation. Executive sessions were held on April 19th regarding personnel, and this evening regarding litigation immediately prior to this public meeting. This is a place where we hold dignity and high regard, and your voices are welcome. Do we have any additional announcements today?
Yes, Ms. Brown, I have an announcement that I would like to make. Over the past couple of months, we've heard various accounts of student bullying being shared at our board meetings, as well as to administration. We have also presented some of our current efforts in addressing these matters. Specifically, we have presented our current policy and procedures. When I first became superintendent during the 2018-19 school year, one of my priorities was to establish a superintendent's committee regarding bullying prevention with specific charges. As we have seen an increase in negative behaviors post-COVID, we have recently tried to re-examine some of our past practices in addressing these matters. I believe that it is essential that we re-examine our bullying prevention policy, as well as the specific procedures that outline steps in addressing bullying. I will charge our Bullying Prevention Committee with this task, as well as our building-level student bullying prevention committees. Further, I will ask that we expand our efforts in creating additional methods for students to anonymously report incidents beyond our current methods, such as Safe to Say. I'm also providing direction that we increase our training opportunities throughout the district for staff as well as our students. Our building level student committees should also receive training to become a safe space for student-to-student reporting or discussion regarding bullying. As it is important for the viewpoints of various stakeholders to be heard regarding bullying prevention, our committee can expand and should include diverse representation. I invite members of our community who would like to be involved in this process to join our committee by contacting Dr. Rosenthal or the Student Service Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. And just for a moment of clarity, that date, the next meeting date is May 24th, to my recollection. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, we will have to add, with this examining of the policy, as well as looking at the procedures, there will have to be additional dates added to the committee to take on this task. So there will be more forthcoming.
Thank you. Does that conclude your announcements?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'll open with opening comments from my fellow board members. Mr. Allen?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Frazier?
No, thank you.
Mr. Kay?
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Mowry?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Glasser?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Muhammad?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Fazy?
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Kleiman?
Nothing, thank you.
And we will get started. Dr. Fetcher, please proceed with this evening's orientations.
We have board honors. And Mr. Barrios, principal of Abington Senior High School, will share one video highlighting recent media coverage of Abington Senior High School's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Mr. Barrios.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Fetcher, Ms. Brown, and members of our Board of School Directors. On Thursday, April 13th, inside the think tank of Abington Senior High School, we held our Hall of Fame induction ceremony. This year's inductees represents a cross-section of fields and industries from medicine, government, media arts, athletics, education, and business. More details about the Hall of Fame induction ceremony can be found on the district's website under recent postings. Many of the new Hall of Fame members also gave back to the current classes at Abington Senior High School on the following morning, where we held a career chatter format. In these sessions, the inductees talked about their paths to how they got to where they are today, including their educational backgrounds and any challenges they encountered along the way. Please enjoy the news coverage of this memorable event.
Abington Senior High School's Hall of Fame is celebrating its 2023 inductee class, and they held a ceremony tonight to welcome 14 of its newest members. Action News reporter and class of 2011 graduate Katie Catro was among those inducted into the Hall of Fame. Many of the new members also give back to the current Abington students by speaking to groups during career chats. Congrats to Katie Catro.
Mr. Barrios, if you could continue to share a video highlighting recent media coverage of the Abington Senior High School girls flag football team featured on NBC 10.
Sure. The Philadelphia Eagles started their first girls flag football season last spring with 15 local high schools. And this year, this has grown to 38 teams, which includes Abington Senior High School. The goal of the league is to empower female sports and to eventually have a girls flag football team become a PIAA sport. Abington is in a division with 8 other schools, and we are currently undefeated. Playoffs will begin in May, and the semifinals and the championship game will be played on May 17th at the NovaCare Center. We are beyond proud of our team and our coach, Ms. Melissa Burzell, for her dedication and leadership. We wish the team continued success in their journey toward a championship. I have another video clip for you to watch.
The Philadelphia Eagles-sponsored girls flag football program is less than a month away from its championship game. The Abington Senior High Eagles face off against William Tennant High tonight, Montgomery County. They're just 2 of the 38 teams in the league, which is in the second year. The championship game is set for May 17th at the NovaCare Center. They're playing hard out there. That pick 6 was great. Thank you so much for joining us on NBC 10 News at 11.
Thank you, Mr. Barrios. And I'll ask Mr. Barrios and Mr. Todd Vaccaro, our athletic director, to continue with the next honors by sharing highlights from the 2022-2023 winter sports season at Abington Senior High School.
Thank you. Tonight I'm very proud to share with you a special presentation that highlights the 2022-2023 winter sports season. At this time, I'm joined by Todd Vaccaro, and I'd ask him to join me at the lectern, and also Ms. Brown, if you'd like to join us. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Fetcher, Ms. Brown, and members of the Board of School Directors. Tonight I'm very excited and proud to share these excellent accomplishments of our student athletes, coaches, and teams. First, we will recognize Abington Boys Basketball as a District 1 playoff qualifier. The Abington Boys Basketball team qualified for the District 1 playoffs for the 12th straight season under the experience and skilled coaching of Mr. Charles Grasty. As the tournament's number 20 seed, Abington earned an upset road victory over Pennsbury in the opening round. Also during the 22-23 season, head coach Charles Grassi earned his 250th career victory. John Wright Wrestling as a Southeastern Class 3A regional qualifier, Abington Senior High School coach Mr. David Osei. Abington Wrestling's John Wright had great performances at this year's postseason tournaments. John, a sophomore heavyweight, won first place at the Suburban 1 League Liberty Division Championship. He then placed 4th at the District 1 Class 3A East Tournament to advance to the Southeast Class 3A Regional Tournament on March 3rd and 4th. Abington Wrestling is coached by Mr. David Osei, and we look forward to John's future accomplishments on the mat. Tonight, we're joined in person by Abington Girls Basketball as a District 1 and PIAA State Playoff qualifier and with head coach Mr. Dan Marsh. The Abington girls basketball team qualified for the District 1 playoffs for the 19th straight season under the outstanding coaching of Dan Marsh. Postseason victories over Plymouth Whitemarsh, Conestoga, and Unionville earned the team a berth in the PIAA Class 6A state playoffs. Abington defeated Wyoming Valley West and Springfield Delco to advance to the Class 6A quarterfinals. The team fell in the round of 8 to the eventual state champion Archbishop Carroll. The season concluded with a 23-6 record. Head coach Dan Marsh achieved the milestone of 450 career wins, including 350 here at Abington during the regular season. Individually, Sari Worley earned Class 6A second team honors on the 2023 Pennsylvania Sports Writer All-State Girls Basketball Team. Sari is the all-time leading scorer in Abington girls basketball history with 1,777 career points. This season as a senior, Sari averaged 20.4 points per game. She will continue her athletic and academic career at the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Joining us from Abington girls basketball tonight are Abril Bowser, Aaron Cleary, Vanessa Coleman, Shia Crafton, Vanessa Griffin, Maya Johnson, Zion McLean, Sarah O'Leary, Kayla Rice, Wenda Lee Rivera, Ava Tyke, Inanna Williams, along with Coach Dan Marsh, Coach Jerry Fresca, Coach Allison Lawson, and Coach Dave Turetsky. Congratulations, a great year. Abington girls basketball and coaches. Next, we will recognize Abington cheerleading. Abington cheerleading was a PIAA Competitive Spirit Championship Class 3A Small Varsity Qualifier coached by Miss Kristen Barron. At the District 1 Championships on January 7th, Abington placed 8th overall and 5th in the Small Varsity Division. These achievements earned the team a bid to the 2023 PIAA Competitive Spirit Championships in the Class 3A Small Varsity Division at the Giants Center in Hershey, Pennsylvania. At the state championships, an excellent performance in the preliminary round earned the team a berth straight to the final round. Overall, Abington cheerleading placed 11th in the state in the Class 3A Small Division. The squad also received honors in the UCA Northeast Regional Competition, earning 2 bids to the 2023 National High School Cheerleading Competition. Team members include Ashley Atkins, Sophia Burgesson, Angelina Burke, Daniela Castrina, Siani Ford, Paris Graves, Sierra Henderson, Allison Kehoe, Madison Matchett, Molly McClenahan, Shannon McCormick, Veronica Mojica, Alyssa Wynn, Kiara Nielsen, Isabella Ospina, Catherine Ospina, Sarah Park, Stephanie Park, Shayla Parker, Sophia Venango, Israeli Winston Suarez, and Allison Winoski. Congratulations to Coach Kristen Barron and Sarah Roberts on outstanding seasons and again, earning the trip to Hershey. Girls and boys swimming District 1 qualifiers with Coach Mr. Joe Lennon. The Abington boys swim team had an incredible meet at the District 1 Swim Championships as they set the following 5 new school records. The 200-yard medley relay of Colin Nash, John Franchetti, Benny Suit, Andrew Horton finished in 3rd place in District 1 and were automatic qualifiers to the PIAA Championships. Other school record breakers were, in the 500-yard free, Andrew Horton, 200-yard free relay of Andrew Horton, Brendan Moe, Darren Moe, and Benny Suit, 100-yard backstroke, Colin Nash, and 100-yard breaststroke, John Franchetti. Other boys teams District 1 qualifiers were Alex Pasquarello, Noah Bothwell, Nick Arena, and Chucky Ease. 6 members of the Abington girls swim team also qualified for the District 1 championships. Olivia Capps, Julia Chung, Marley Hollister, Autumn Jessup, Olivia Kraft, and Ruby Tucker. Abington's Alicia McHugh qualified for the PIAA District 1 Girls Diving Championships, which were held at North Penn. The following members of the Abington boys swimming team qualified for the PIAA Championships at Bucknell University: John Franchetti, Andrew Horton, Colin Nash, Benny Suit, and Brendan Moe. The medley relay of Colin Nash, John Franchetti, Benny Suit, and Andrew Horton finished 18th in the PIAA in Class 3A. Also, as individuals, John Franchetti finished 17th in the individual medley and 16th in the breaststroke. Andrew Horton was also an individual qualifier in the 500 freestyle. Joining us tonight are John Franchetti, Benny Suit, and head coach of Abington Swimming, Mr. Joe Lennon. Congratulations on outstanding year. Joining us now, boys and girls indoor track, Pennsylvania Track and Field District 1 state qualifiers, with Abington Senior High School coach, Mr. Bill Neely. "15 Abington athletes qualified and competed at the PTFCA, Pennsylvania Track and Field Coach Association, Indoor State Championships. Qualifiers were Janiyah Black, Karima Dixon, Madeline Egan, Sky Harrison, Sydney Smith, Kayla Woodbridge, Tyler Abraham, Keith Axton, Luke Coleman, Anthony D'Angelo, Chase Ely, Aiden Gow, Dominic Jones, Jameer McClinton, and Peter Murray. Janiyah Black finished 13th in the girls' 400-meter race. The girls' 4x400-meter relay team placed 14th. The boys' distance medley placed 11th. The boys' 4x200-meter relay team placed 2nd. The boys' team overall finished 2nd at the entire championship meet with 32 points. In addition to those other placers, the boys' 4x400-meter relay team, consisting of Luke Coleman, Keith Axton, Jameer McClinton, and Tyler Abraham, won gold, placed first with a time of 3 minutes, 19.2 seconds. Congratulations to the state championship relay team. We also have one individual recognition from this group, and that's Tyler Abraham. Tyler is the 2023 PTFCA Indoor State Champion in the 400-meter race. He placed first with a time of 48.4 seconds. Tyler was here last year. He was here in the spring, and we wish him best of luck this week along with his other teammates as they go down to the University of Pennsylvania for the Penn Relays. Yeah. Congratulations to not only our indoor track team and competitors, but to all the students, coaches, parents, and supporters of these outstanding teams. Thank you for this excellent recognition. Thank you.
It is always a pleasure to honor our student athletes. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the Abington Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I wasn't the only one there from the board, but it was truly a great time sitting at the feet of people who graduated when I was a toddler. But no, listening to their experience, I just want to say something really quickly. Each one of the recipients all had a story that led back to an amazing teacher or an amazing experience in Abington. Every single speaker. So for the teachers, the administrators in the room, I just want to remind you of the power and influence you have over students because they take that with them to adulthood. And some of them may come back as an awardee, and they will be hugging you like they were hugging the science teacher who was in his 90s. In his 90s, it was a beautiful moment. So never forget the power of influence you have over the students who are charged under your leadership. Dr. Fetcher.
That completes our honors this evening.
Thank you. We can go to agenda item number 3, which is comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comment is 267-715-3717 and is being displayed on the screen at this time. You may join in by the meeting by calling on your mobile or landline phone. And if there's anyone present in the room who would like to speak, there are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Rooney. I live in Ardsley. That was really cool what just happened right here, and it was really neat to see all those kids doing that stuff. And I can remember girls flag football in the 1970s when I was in McDevitt, so it's kind of neat to see that something like that's still going on. First, this isn't quite as momentous, but a lot of you guys remember John Woody McGoldrick, who was at Abington for many years. Well, he's having a kind of momentous birthday this week. So I've actually just gone around and gotten a bunch of signatures from people that knew him. And afterwards, if anybody was interested in signing one of these sheets, I'm going to give it to him tomorrow or the next day, just if you're curious. I don't remember, but I think he worked here for 40 years or so. And as you go around the township, I could bet you a month's salary, he's the best known person probably in all of Abington and Rockledge. So he's a gentle soul and truly a angel. So if you're interested in that, even though it's from me, you're welcome to sign it. It's not from me, I'm just carrying it. I wanted to follow up something at the end of last meeting. There's a young lady that got up and talked, and I think she's here, and she asked a really simple question, and that was, why won't you just answer my question? And what she got back was the board basically said, oh, this is a chance for you to make comments. Well, that's not true exactly. You all are elected, and you can do whatever you want and run the board meetings however you want. The school district and everything works under your guidance, and the people who are here and watching and aren't at all, they actually elected you to represent them. So there's nothing wrong with directly answering somebody's question when they ask. It's not a long question, it's not difficult either. And it would be great to get answers from the board. So for you all, and I've told you before, you got 1 minute left, okay? This will go fast. You've been elected. You can get up and talk. You can have discussions among yourselves. You can ask a follow-up question to somebody. That's common courtesy and professionalism, and it would be great if it would be extended from the board also to the residents, and people would really appreciate hearing that their board members actually know or could ask school district for something. The contract that's going on today, I know you all are going to cut me off here in just a minute, but I've got a couple of questions that I'll try and get in right now. Number one, with the contract, how much does it cost? The second one is, I don't understand, why are we giving 5-year contracts to government employees? If you can't fire somebody, then they actually don't work for you. You kind of work for them. So I don't understand that 5-year thing. Now it's happened 2 contracts in a row. The third one is when the professional staff came up, somebody that's a doctor got a $2,500 bonus. And in the contract, it specifically says the things that apply to the professional staff also apply. So I'm just out of curious, does that apply, that $2,500 apply to the assistant superintendent?
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are mics to the left and to the right of you.
Good evening, Karen Jean Charles on Osceola. I just want to ask, I understand that there was a meeting with the community leaders around the bullying issue, and I wanted to see when, if, you know, what the plans are for the community, the parents to meet with those leaders or what the outcome was. So I'd be curious to know about that.
Thank you. Mr. Sneed, can you confirm if there are callers on the line?
There are no callers on the line.
Thank you. Any other speakers within the room? Thank you. Dr. Fetcher?
In terms of the result of the meeting with the leaders, there are a couple things that are going to happen. First off, I am going to be doing table talks throughout the community with parents and having specific schools be able to attend one, so it's an opportunity to listen with the focus on listening to parents. That will be done through my office. On the other hand, the group of leaders are speaking about what is the best way for their organizations to have discussions about violence and bullying within the community. By that I mean some of the organizations would like to host and have school district, police personnel, Abington Community Task Force, and various groups be able to attend their facility or their location. So we are currently in the process of working through Abington Community Task Force to see what the interest level is, and we're also going to, from a school district perspective, we are available to attend any of those organizations to have those discussions.
Thank you. And you're still working on the date?
Yes. I should have the table talk dates presented out probably by the end of this week. We're just finishing some of the details.
Mm-hmm. Does that conclude? Yes. Okay. All right. That takes us to agenda item number 5, personnel. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the personnel addenda?
Yes, Madam President, is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the changes in personnel as reflected in Personnel Addendum 5.1 and Confidential Personnel Addendum 5.1A.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. The personnel addendum begins with item number 1, and I'm going to ask the individual to stand in the recommendation appointment of Mr. Tayshawn Gross as assistant principal at Abington Senior High School. Mr. Gross is currently an assistant principal in the North Penn School District. Prior to this position, Mr. Gross was a school climate manager in the School District of Philadelphia. Mr. Gross is a graduate of Lincoln University, where he obtained his bachelor's degree in secondary education with a focus in English. Mr. Gross continued his education at Eastern University, where he earned his master's degree in special education. Mr. Gross graduated from Cabrini University with a master's degree in educational leadership. Item number 2 is the change of status for one professional employee. Item number 3 is the request for a leave of absence from one professional staff member. The personnel addendum continues with hiring of substitutes, compensation for board presentations, IEP meetings, and support personnel items. I bring your attention to item number 12 and the retirement of Ms. Cynthia Naldesher, a paraprofessional at Rydell Elementary School, has served the Abington School District for 7 years. Thank you.
Thank you. As always, we congratulate our retirees and wish you the best. Mr. Gross, we welcome you to the Abington family, and we thank you ahead of time for all the hard work you are going to put in to enhance what's there. So thank you so much and welcome.
Also an Abington resident, too.
And an Abington resident. Welcome, welcome. Let's clap it up. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay. Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and the motion passes. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the financial report?
Yes, Madam President, it is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the financial report for period ending March 31st, 2023, as reflected in addendum number 6.1.
Do we have,
Second.
we have a second? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I'm going to ask Mr. Lionetti if you could please summarize the March 2023 financial report.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. As of March 31st, we receive $148.9 million of revenue, which is 88.4% of the $168.5 million revenue budget. Last year through March, we received $140.5 million of revenue, which was 86.1% of the budget. Revenue collections are $8.4 million ahead of last year at this particular time. Year to date, we've expended $123.5 million of our $180.9 million expense budget, which equates to 68.3%. Through the same time period last year, $113.3 million were expended, which is 64% of the then $176.9 million budget. We've expended $10.2 million more this year compared to last year at this time. This is primarily due to the fact that March was a 3-pay month this year, and April was the 3-pay month last year. With respect to our capital projects fund, the district paid senior high school project contractors just over $522,000. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you, Mr. Lionetti.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the payment of bills?
Yes, Madam President, it is recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the payment of bills for periods ending March 31st, 2023, as reflected in 7.1.
Aye. Second.
Thank you for seconding. Dr. Fetcher?
I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding payment of the bills.
Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for permits for the use of buildings and grounds?
Yes, Madam President, it is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the applications for permits for use of buildings and grounds as reflected in number 8.1. All permits are subject to change per the provisions of the Health and Safety Plan pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher?
The permit addendum continues to reflect typical requests for buildings and grounds, for meetings and other school events and activities for this time of year.
Question or comments from the board? Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for awards of contracts?
Yes, Madam President, it is recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the awards of contract as reflected in addendum 9.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Tonight, for your consideration, we have 2 awards of contract and 2 Montgomery County School entities joint purchasing agreements. First is for replacement copiers, and this is for Abington Middle, Abington Senior High Schools and the Administration Building. This is a 60-month operating lease. Next is for rooftop HVAC repair at McKinley Elementary School. The two Montgomery County school entities joint purchasing awards are for custodial supplies and unleaded gasoline and diesel fuels.
Questions or comments from the board?
Just ask about the fuel costs. How often do we revisit that? Is it just a yearly revisit? And how many do we typically look to get quotes from?
Mr. Lionel, can you speak to the process of that?
Yes, the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit steers this process for the Montgomery school entities, which they solicit a great number of bids from the 3 companies listed. It's got a number of component parts that it consists of, the cost of transportation, of course, the cost of the commodity itself. We were able to lock in prices that are very favorable compared to the current year prices we're paying, as we timed it just before the prices surged due to the OPEC planned shortages of production. And the costs are reflected in the proposed budget.
And that, is that part where other school districts do the same thing as we do? Is there, goes
Yes.
through the MCIU?
Yes, all of the Montgomery County school entities participated in this bid, and we all locked in prices when we thought the market was appropriate for our budgets, and we did an excellent job this year.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Can you remind me of the condition of the HVAC system in regards to air quality now and what those repairs will do for the school?
Mr. Berge, can you speak to the repair?
Yes, over at McKinley Elementary School, one of the fans in a unit that services the office area has failed. We do have some ventilation there, but we do not have cooling, primarily cooling, which is the issue, and it will take approximately 2 months for the work to be done. So we acted on this as quickly as possible, but it doesn't serve classroom areas or any areas other than the main office area.
And even the main office area, the quality of air for them, because we care about them too, as far as the air exchanges and things of that nature, can you speak to that being up to par?
Yes, the requirements for air exchanges in the office area, because you don't have the same number of students as you have in the classroom area, is not as high, and there is adequate air exchange there for the class, or for the office area.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question about the transportation. Will there be any federal kickbacks for electrical vehicles? I know we spoke about having electrical buses at some point.
Rebates?
Yeah, not kickbacks.
Well, we could call
Not
it rebates, of
kickbacks.
course. Well, excuse the expression. Are there any benefits from the federal government for electric vehicles that we might eventually have in our fleet?
Mr. Lionetti, do you want to take that forward?
I believe Mr. Rem might be more versed in that, as he's attended some information sessions on that.
I was curious, first off, I guess the question would be, of the fleet that we have for transportation, are any of them electrical vehicles? And if not, are we planning to purchase any?
Currently, we have no electrical vehicles in our fleet. At the moment, we are not planning on converting. There are programs out there through the Clean Air Initiative. However, there are some caveats to it with infrastructure and, the actual putting in the electrical supply and all of that. That's, there's the grants that are out there are for upfront costs, but then it's the cost year after year to maintain that program that are quite expensive. So we've looked at it, but it's not feasible
Thank you.
at the moment.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for contracted food services?
Yes, Madam President, it is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the renewal of the contract with Chartwell's School Dining Services for the 2023-2024 school year at a guarantee of $85,000 to the district contingent upon budgeted operating days, student enrollment, and budgeted operating costs.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. We are recommending the renewal of our contract with Chartwell's School Dining Services for the 2023-2024 school year. Chartwell's has been our food service provider since 1984 and has provided quality food service and financial remuneration to our food service account. Dr. Melkor, would you want to expand on that?
Just from the standpoint of process, we are permitted to renew for a total of 4 years after the initial agreement is made. That was done for the 2019-2020 school year. So this is the fourth of 4 renewals that is possible. So next school year, we will issue a request for proposals again. We've been doing that every 5 years, and Chartwell's has continued to be far and above the better of the options that is presented to us.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for the MCIU services contract?
Yes, Madam President, it is the recommended action of the Board of School Directors that the board, it is recommended action that the Board of School Directors authorizes the Board President and Chief School Administrator to execute an agreement between the Abington School District and Montgomery County Intermediate Unit Number 23, where the intermediate unit will provide the school district with special education services for 2023-2024 as reflected in Addendum 11.1. Said agreement being subject to changes based on the district's needs and the intermediate unit costs.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Regulations of the Pennsylvania Department of Education require that each school district develop a service request plan and with its intermediate unit. I'm going to ask Ms. Marie Capitola to review this evening the cost plan.
Dr. Fetcher, this plan that the school district contracts with the MCIU is for services that the school district doesn't currently provide. Such services include Assistive Technology Resource Center. We use the MCIU for audiometer calibration costs. We get our digital assessment library, which are the digital assessments that all of our psychologists and our speech therapists use with our students, orientation and mobility services, and we also utilize the IU's private school called Anderson and their partial hospitalization program. The plan this year is estimated to be around $70,000. It's a reduced cost of $36,000 from last year, and even reduced from the year prior. As the district improves the special education services, we need to lean on the IU less and less each year. Next year, we also predict that we will no longer need to use them for orientation and mobility, as our vision support teacher will be certified in that area as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
So these are costs associated with already identified needs based on IEP and 504s?
Correct.
Any additional questions? Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Mr. Allen, can you please read the recommendation for the assistant superintendent contract?
Yes, Madam President. It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors, pursuant to Section 1076 of the Public School Code, and upon nomination of the superintendent, it is recommended that Dr. James Melkor be reappointed as Assistant Superintendent effective July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2028. And it is further recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the employment contract between the district and Dr. Melkor in addendum number 12.1, with the understanding that attachment 2 will be developed by mutual agreement.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. This resolution reappoints Dr. Melkor as a district's assistant superintendent from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2028, and establishes the terms and condition of his reelection. I strongly recommend this action as Dr. Melkor continues to be an asset to our district through his hard work and thorough analysis. Dr. Melkor holds much responsibility for operations in the district. In my role as superintendent of schools, I appreciate Dr. Melkor's support on a daily basis. Dr. Melkor came to Abington School District in 2009 as Assistant Director of Curriculum and was appointed Assistant Superintendent in 2018. Some of Dr. Melkor's educational degrees. Dr. Melkor has a Bachelor of Arts in History and Biology from the University of Pennsylvania, a Master of Education, Secondary Education from the University of Pennsylvania. His second master's is in Educational Technology from Wilkes University. His third master's is in Educational Leadership from Wilkes University, and he holds a Doctor of Education in Educational Leadership from the University of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
I'm not sure about the credentials.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Dr. Melkor, very impressive.
Just like to say, Dr. Melkor has always not only made himself available, but also has given wide information and understanding to many of the different parts of the Abington School District. I think he's a great compliment to our superintendent, and I just feel like this is a strong team leading us in a very good direction, and I'm happy that he's willing to stay.
Excellent.
I would like to echo that. Dr. Melkor is impressive. His depth of knowledge of just about everything that goes on in this district. Dr. Fetcher will throw curveballs at you, and I think there's no way he's going to know that. And you know the answer. It is impressive and remarkable, and I'm thankful that you chose to stay with us. I know we're approving your contract, but you were the other half in this agreement, and you chose us to stay for the next 5 years. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? I would just like to add that I agree with everything that I've heard. And why a 5-year contract? Because I believe a highly qualified individual like yourself should know that we value what you bring to the table, and you should not have to worry about whether my contract will be renewed, because you can just focus on what you've been tasked to focus on. So anyone who comes with your level of expertise and you are an asset, as has been said, to partnering with Dr. Fetcher. We value you, and we appreciate you staying on board for another 5 years. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Fetcher, any additional reports for this evening?
Yes, Ms. Brown, I provide the conference attendance and professional leaves for your information. Bring your attention to Mr. Brandon Lutz, Director of Innovation, who will be presenting at Tech Talk Live in Lancaster in May. The focus of the presentation is sharing ideas, tools, resources, and more to help bridge the gap between innovation and technology. Mr. Matthew Sneed, Supervisor of Technology, will also be presenting. His presentation will focus on Zabbix software, which is an open source application that is used to monitor network devices.
Excellent. Abington, first in alphabet, first in achievement, first in presenting. It's not an A, but it's It's very accurate. I just want to thank everyone who's up there for taking the opportunity to either present or learn, so that Abington can be, continue to be what we want it to be, which is first in achievement. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Any other business that may be appropriately brought up by my fellow school board members? Okay. Seeing none, that takes us to comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and live. The phone number for public comment is 267-715-3717 and is featured on the screen at this time. If you are within the room, you may say your name and address.
Hello, Arthur Bear, Horace Avenue, Abington. The recent contract negotiations with the assistant and the superintendent, I'm wondering if part of that negotiation involved comparison of similar positions in similar school districts, if that was part of the negotiation, so that we may have and if that information is available, so that we may be able to normalize the salaries and the increases and see if they're in line with adjacent communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Yeah, Joe Rooney again. First off, it's great to see you all. Any chance the community could get an explanation why 5 of you skipped last meeting? Because, I mean, that's pretty significant. I think they call it truancy if you're in the school district, but maybe y'all would want to, I mean, you have to have 5 people here even to have a meeting, so they're able to hoodwink somebody into coming in on the computer or Zoom or whatever. And then you could say, I guess 5 attended, but then why didn't the other 4 dial in on Zoom? I mean, it's unbelievable where you can get that from. So, I mean, we wait, deathly silence probably for the explanation. It's unprofessional. It looks unprofessional to the staff and everybody else. Parents that joined. So, God bless you. So, the second one was a certain amount of churn is really good. It's healthy in an organization to get people to come and go. I mean, they just lost Aaron Rodgers at the Packers, and Cliff Lee was at the Phils, and then he left. Ultimately, he came back again. It's also healthy when you have big positions to look and see what's available out there. So, I mean, I don't know if any of you know what the value of that contract is. I do. If you're interested, just let me know. But it's another $1.5 million plus no bid contract. So, I mean, we talk about nickel and dimes with prices of fuel, or we're not going to pay for an EV charging station, or we're worried about a fan. It would be worth to look and see what the market would bear. It very well could end up the way that it ended up, but that would be helpful to know. So I have more to say, but that's probably good enough for tonight. So thank you all for your time. Oh, I got one last thing real quick. 2 meetings ago, we spent an hour and a half doing orientations. It was over an hour and a half. It was after 9 o'clock before the orientation stopped, and then it was 11 o'clock when everybody got home. Today, I know I'm talking for 3 minutes and 3 minutes, but we basically have about a half-hour meeting with the stuff that went on. It would seem to me it would be a lot more. It would be in accordance with the Geneva Convention almost to spread that stuff out. There was nothing that was that crucial at that meeting that we couldn't tonight have had one of those 20 or 30-minute orientations here and then kind of spread it out and gotten everybody home, because you lose people on TV. Some of the school directors were sleeping during the meeting. I mean, it was hard to go through all that stuff. So, and you all can run that. I mean, the staff proposes it. You can look and go, man, hour and a half orientations, this is killer. How many times do we need to hear what the day in the life of somebody in the staff is worth, you know?
There are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address. Mr. Sneed, can you confirm if there are or not callers on the line?
I do have one caller.
Thank you.
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 0262. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Brooke Fellis, and I live on Valley Glen Road. I'm calling to say that I'm very concerned, as are other parents, about the middle school bathrooms. Highly inappropriate and unsafe behaviors are still occurring in these bathrooms. This is happening because certain bathrooms are regularly unstaffed at times during the day. Clearly, all are aware that we have had problems in the middle school bathrooms, as all the bathroom entrance doors were recently removed. This is not enough, as issues continue. It is crucial that all bathrooms be monitored and staffed throughout the day. All children have the right to feel comfortable, have privacy, and be safe when using the bathrooms at school. I'm unclear why the bathrooms remain unstaffed, given the continued issues. If this is a budgetary issue, I urge you to reevaluate the budget to make this a priority for the sake of our children. Before our children can learn and thrive, they need to be and to feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sneak, can you confirm that there are no callers on the line?
That is correct.
Thank you. Any other speakers within the room? Dr. Fetcher?
In terms of the middle school bathrooms, thank you for calling in. I will continue to work with the middle school administration to look at how it's monitored and also determine whether or not there are enough staff to do the monitoring.
Thank you. At this time, closing comments from my fellow board members. Mr. Allen?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Frazier?
No, thank you.
Mr. Kay?
Thank you.
Dr. Mowry?
Not this evening.
Ms. Glasser?
No, thank you.
Mr. Muhammad?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Fazy? Dr. Kleiman?
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Fetcher?
I just want to go over the dates to which the table talks will occur. Appreciate them being sent to me during the meeting. The first is on Wednesday, May 10th, and this is for Abington Middle School. And the next one is May 16th, and this is for Abington Senior High School. And then Wednesday, May 17th for Copper Beach, McKinley, and Rydell. And May 31st for Highland, Overlook, Roslyn, and Willow Hill. And this information will be sent out by the end of the week to all of our families within the district.
Dr. Fitch, can you just explain what a table talk is?
It's basically an opportunity to listen and have conversations for parents and guardians to be able to express to us areas that are of concern and also areas that they appreciate or would like to see more things going on in that particular.
So can a parent doesn't have to come prepared to talk, they can come with the intent of just listening?
Yes.
Okay, not sitting around, okay, thank you.
Are these being held during the school day?
No.
Okay.
6 to 7 p.m.
Okay. PSSA season. I want to encourage our students who are listening to get a good night's sleep, eat a good breakfast in the morning, and do your best. And if you decided to opt out, that is, of course, your decision. But if you opted in, get that good night's sleep, good breakfast, and do your best on the assessment. This meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.